We are, we are recording. Welcome, everybody. My name is Rob Brown. I'm delighted to be your host today. We've got a little bit of the lockdown hair and beard. We are a few months into it, but we are in crazy times. Thankfully, we are into the 13th in a series of panels we're doing with esteemed leaders of global accounting and bookkeeping networks, alliances, associations. I'm thrilled to have Kevin Arnold with me from Nexia. Kevin, you've been asked back a second and third time, so you've obviously done something right. Congratulations. We'll hear from you in just a moment.
Well, maybe you think I can do better next time, Rob.
Well, and then we've got Brian Hunter. He's representing Integra. We've got Amy Copeland representing the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers. And we have Tendai White from INPACT Global. And we're going to get them to introduce themselves. But yes, we are in interesting times. And this is not a time to be silent. It's a time for strong leadership. And we're just trying to get a sense of what's happening in your communities out there in terms of leadership and how they are coping with the situation. So welcome one and all. Kevin, can I just ask you to give a little introduction first, and then we'll go to Brian and Amy and then Tendai.
Okay, Rob. So it's a pleasure to be here joining you again. This is my third appearance, and they're great fun. I spent most of my working life in the British Army, in the military, and I left about 14 years ago and became the executive director of DFK International. I had a very happy couple of years with them, and then I joined Nexia International, which is where I've been as the CEO for the last 11 years. It seems a long, long time, but I've enjoyed every minute. So Nexia is the ninth largest accounting network in the world. We've got a turnover of about $4.3 billion US. We have some great firms around the world. And I look forward to taking part in the discussion this afternoon, Rob.
Thank you, Kevin. Great to have you with us. I must say, we have a limit on 2 appearances. We didn't record one, did we?
That's correct. Yeah.
It was the best one we ever did as well, but I made the mistake of not pressing record. But I've hit record this time. Brian, it is super to have you with us. We've had your associate Mark Saunders on before, who did an excellent job. So thank you for joining us all the way from the USA. Please give us a little introduction.
Yes, thanks, Rob. My name is Brian Hunter. I'm the global chair of Integra International. Integra International is an association of independent CPA firms headquartered in London. I'm the global chair for a 2-year term, and the global board is the governance body of Integra. And so this is kind of a part-time job for me. I'm actually a tax practitioner, managing partner of a 30-person CPA firm in Birmingham, Michigan, which is in the suburbs of Detroit. I started my career in this business for over 30 years. I started with Coopers & Lybrand, and so I deal with, as well as being involved in Integra, dealing with client issues on a daily basis and firm management within our firm. So thank you, Rob, for having me.
It's great to have you, and it's lovely to have a practitioner slant on this as well. And how big actually is Integra, Brian? What's the empire that you oversee there?
Yeah, so we have 133 members, and I think we're in like 73 countries underneath that, representing about over 5,000 professionals.
Great. Well, this is not about size, and we all got different perspectives. We have networks and alliances, large and small. Tendai, welcome to the show. That's a lovely big smile there. Just give us a little introduction from you.
Well, I'm Tendai White. I am Executive Director at INPACT Global. I especially oversee day-to-day running of our Asia Pacific, EMEA, and Central and South America regions. Been in the role coming up 9 years now, been with INPACT, I think about 12 or 13 years now. Because I'm only 36, this is pretty much my first real grown-up job, you see. So my background is mainly studying, international marketing and so forth. INPACT ourselves, we've been around for over 30 years, 135 members at the moment, I think. 220 offices, I think about 64 countries at the moment. Combined turnover about 300 million, I think. Mainly medium-sized, full-service firms all over the world.
Well, it's super to have you with us, and welcome. And Amy, we've had the ICB represented before, but you're new, so it's good to have you with us as well. Please give us a little introduction and tell people what you do.
Thanks very much. I'm Amy Copeland. I'm Director of Communications at ICB, the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers. We're a professional body for bookkeepers. We are also global, so I sit on the global board. We've got other ICBs dotted around the world, mostly English-speaking countries. So we are here to represent bookkeepers, to promote them. We write exams, we set standards, and we also provide, obviously, continuing professional education for them. And we're a platform, really, I suppose, for mostly small businesses to find a good, qualified, insured and regulated bookkeeper, but also a platform through which bookkeepers can connect with each other and, and learn more and stay informed.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Welcome. And it's been said that the bookkeepers and the accountants are the emergency services for business right now, because they're keeping a lot of businesses alive. So we're going to dip into some topics here. And Brian, I'm going to start with you on this one. You are a leader of leaders, if you like, as a global chair. And no one can deny that at times like this, we've not known anything like this. You're under huge pressure. So I'm interested right now in how have you stayed strong? What's inspired you? What's kept you going? Who's been supporting you throughout these tough times?
Yeah, good question, Rob. So that's an easy one for me. I mean, I think when you sign up to be a CPA, you kind of and support CPAs, you understand that your weekends and nights may be taken up and so forth, and it's really more than a 9-to-5 job. So I really feel very, very pleased and blessed and so forth with the administrative teams of not only Integra, but my firm and the member firms. It's been amazing. You hear the word pivot a lot, but things that we didn't know that would happen 3 months ago. We have just a few examples of our HR people are making sure we have guidance to open offices, to close offices in accordance with appropriate regulations, and making our team members feel safe. Our communications and marketing are really, there's a sense of urgency about the message out about incentive programs and so forth for businesses, and we want to, stay strong together. Our tech teams have been amazing. I'm still amazed that there's so many video platforms of Zoom, Skype, WebEx, all of these, and we've been able to pivot pretty quickly, support our people that have been working remotely. I think most of our firms have been prepared to that, but there's still some gaps that we needed to fill, and these people have been working 24/7. I know for all the firms, and they really, really keep me inspired. Thank you.
It's a great point, and we are going to come on to how you are supporting your members soon. But we're as leaders, we are under duress. We've got to be available 24/7. Amy, is it a good time to be a bookkeeper? How have you stayed strong in all of this? Because comms must be going crazy right now.
I think there's never been a better time to be a bookkeeper, actually. But yeah, we did. We sort of overnight became a 24-hour news station, which was quite intense. Or at least that's how it felt. But yeah, I mean, I think that we're lucky in this industry that our customers, our clients need us more than ever, really. So it's been great for bookkeepers, and they're sort of digital native. Certainly our members, they got into bookkeeping because they wanted to have a flexible lifestyle, and they wanted to have a business that they could run from home, often around their other commitments. A lot of our members joined us when they changed careers. So we've got lots of people who've sort of decided specifically to give up that, 50-hour work weeks in the banking sector. And so they haven't even really needed to pivot in many ways. This has been business as usual for them.
But what's kept you strong?
What's kept me strong? Wow. I'm lucky, I suppose, in that I'm getting to spend lockdown with my family, with my husband, my 2 kids. So I guess it's kind of, kids are quite inspiring anyway. I think their sort of ability to live in the moment. They feel the highs and the lows, and then they just keep rolling. I guess kitchen dance parties.
Excellent.
fix most problems. So, you know, I think we're all kind of keeping each other alive.
Whatever it takes. Tendai, we have a situation where accountants, bookkeepers, they're not just asked to be professionals, they are counselors, they are therapists, they are dealing with anxiety, and you in turn will have to help your members with a lot of emotional stuff as well as professional. So what's kept you going and kept you strong?
For me personally, I think it's outside of the businesses and all of these organizations, we're all people. I think it's given us a chance to, you know, everything, the big things we have built, to bring it, like scale it right back down to the people element. So a lot has been maybe in terms of, you know, connecting with members, you know, one-to-ones. We've had virtual calls where literally it's just just how are you doing?
Yeah.
And you know, you will have one member talking about how they're not sure how they're going to pay their staff next month because government has said, you know, especially in some of the countries in the east, you know, government is, you know, shut everything down for the next 3 months, and we weren't prepared for remote working, or, you know, our clients weren't prepared, or our clients aren't paying. And then on the same side, you can have people coming with some of what's happened maybe in their own families or in their own communities. So I think, especially the first couple of months, I think everyone had to take a step back a little and maybe re-engage the humanity of the situation. With all of the statistics and everything, these are people's lives,
Yeah.
these are people's families, these are people's communities, which may never be the same again. And so the first month of the season was based on that. For me, myself, as a team, we work remotely anyway. So it was more of the same in terms of our adaptation, but I have a 9-year-old, and suddenly we were in full-time homeschooling mode and then working full-time as an ED. So to keep sane, it's early nights. I go to bed at 9:30 and I'm up at 5.
That'll do it.
That way I can get it all done. So
That'll do it. Yeah, sleep keeps you strong. Kevin, you have a military background, so if anyone on this panel is mentally strong, it's you. But how have you kept resilient in these tough times?
Well, I think I'm fairly representative of a lot of people at the moment, Robin, that my life has been changed fundamentally. I mean, I've been working from home now for the last 3 months. Can't even get a haircut. You know, no real contact with family and friends other than Zoom and telephone. My work life is absolutely different. I mean, my life as a CEO of Nexia involves a lot of travel, meeting people, discussing problems, and taking part in many meetings and discussions. And that clearly doesn't happen. Then you have the context of the situation we're all in with the virus and the concerns that we have on that. And then added to that, we have the challenges that we all have as a global organizations, and they're a whole range of things. You know, we're in the middle of a strategic review. How does that leave us? How are we able to do it? Can you do that remotely? We were about to send invoices for membership fees to members, and there was a challenge. Well, are they able to pay, and how is that impacted? So, you know, my approach to this has always been where you have no control. And the worst place to be is where you have no control. Where you have no control over events, you try and impose a degree of control. So, for instance, it sounds pathetic. You may feel it's a bit weird, but I impose on myself a sort of a routine that means I do the same things in the morning that I used to do when I went to the office in terms of getting dressed and shaved and all this sort of stuff. And then I think the other thing that I think is really important is you lean on other people and you make yourself available to be lent on. So I began very early on regular catch-ups with other network CEOs, and we exchange information. How do you do this? What's your approach on that? And we come on a bit later on to what we do with firms. But within my own team, I have got 25 people who for the first time are working remotely. And their circumstances vary. I mean, some of them are like Amy, where they're with their family and they're very comfortable. But there are others, I meant comfortable in the setup. And there are others who are not in such a good place in terms of working remotely. So there's the requirement, I think, to just just communicate and be prepared to have open conversations with people. But it's just understanding that you're not alone in this, and things will get better. So yeah, for me, it's just trying to impose what control you can, and just be prepared to learn from people, lean on people. Don't be afraid to say you don't know how to do something.
Very good. And Brian talked about the team he's got around and helping him with his various things. I'm just going to open that up. Anything to add on that in terms of how have you stayed strong so that you can help your members and colleagues to stay strong? Well, that's okay. Let's move on. Amy, with your bookkeeping community, it's mostly women, isn't it? As I understand, there are a lot of people are working. And they're working from home largely. As you said, this kind of freelance lifestyle. How important is it for them to plug into something that's bigger than themselves? Because it's easy to get isolated. So when they plug in, how important is that? And what kind of things do you do to support them?
Well, I think certainly that's one of the big drivers for joining a membership body, joining a professional body, obviously in addition to the credentials and the content that you get. It is about, very much about the community, trying to be less isolated, being able to share best practice, and like Kevin said, sort of admitting that you don't know everything and asking for help sometimes. We've had a very strong, we've got a very strong what we call branch network. So we've got something like, I think it's possibly 35 branches, and they have up till now been quite defined by geographical region. So they've continued meeting, but what we've been able to do, because we're now using Zoom, everyone's meeting online, and all the groups are now joining together and they're sharing speakers, and they've been expanding the network, basically. We had a roadshow actually booked for June, which we ran online, and we had a lot of CPD content. And we had lots of people saying, actually, it's better than going to the real thing. You don't get the nice lunch and you don't get that kind of social element. But we had lots and lots of people coming who said, I haven't been able to go in previous years because it's too far, or I've got kids, or I've got disabilities, or for whatever reason. And we actually have, I would say it's been super positive, actually, the number of people we've been able to reach now that we're doing everything virtually. So that's been very nice. We've also been doing a daily webinar, very much like this. We've called it ICB TV. And so we've done over 50 episodes of that now. So we're doing it a little bit less regularly now.
You'll be bought up by Netflix any minute now.
Yes, we would never sell, of course. Apparently Netflix buys anything at the moment. They're desperate. But we are not. But yeah, that's been really lovely. I actually spoke to a member who said that she was on the phone to one of her clients who had a question. She asked it in the chat on ICB TV. We answered it online, on air, basically, and then she was able to tell her client. So just, I guess, it comes down to communication. We're communicating everything that we're sort of absorbing, helping our members navigate all the changes. But yeah, very much setting the sort of the idea that communicating with the clients is really essential, because that's what bookkeepers do best, and the clients need it more than ever.
Yeah. Brian, you mentioned you were smiling a couple of times when Amy was talking there. You talked about pivoting earlier. You must have had to pivot to stay relevant for your members. How important is it that they're plugged into something, and how are you helping them right now?
Yeah, so the big thing is, we have conferences, and, we get together and we have, interaction face-to-face. We had, I think, a Miami conference, a Budapest conference, and London conference planned this year. So it was basically, put the brakes on immediately and try to pivot to create not just some type of conference call or anything, but something really special, like a presentation, like a nice production, so we can have value-added speakers, value-added content. The trick, I think, is to make it engaging, to keep it short, to keep attention. I mean, we've all been on these conferences. I was watching, in the news, there was a political board meeting, and one of the board meeting members fell asleep for 20 minutes. Right? We want to we want to make sure that we pivot to create good content, to create value, to keep it interesting. I know there's a lot of organizations doing that. I think that so that's more the replacing the events we had. I also know that we're having more, as Amy mentioned, more frequent conversations and more, I think, spur of the moment. We have maybe members that have questions. We'll just within a couple of days pull together a Zoom call and put our heads together to solve issues, and I think it's a lot of good will come out of this, and I think that the good thing is it's more accepting. I think I'm seeing friends that I would only see maybe twice or three times a year. I would talk to them maybe a couple times a month, but it's good to see faces, good to have the eye contact, and keep those relationships and keep the culture going.
Yeah. I just wrote down a word, Kevin, as I was listening to Brian there, which is relevance. And in these tough times, you've got to stay relevant for your members, haven't you? How have you done that?
I think that's a really key point, Robert. Look, I think one of the main reasons that the mid-tier networks and the associations exist, or one of the major sort of tools that we have, is networking. And so when we were all in the same position in terms of having to cancel or postpone all of our conferences and meetings for this year, the question then comes, well, what are we now meant to do? Because whilst we've all in the past had some online activity, we've all had webinars, we've been delivering webinars for quite a long time, the take-up has been historically been pretty limited. And so there was a thought, well, look, there's not much else we can do. But again, to use my military background, from my own experience, whenever people go through a really significant event, whether it be a conflict or a pandemic, when it all dies down and you're back in normal, the only thing they want to talk about is what you've been through. And so I challenged my team that it was inconceivable that in answer to a question from a member, what do you do in the pandemic? We said, well, pretty much the same as ever. So we went on a very conscious effort to increase collaboration in whatever way we could, and there are any number of things we did. But what didn't surprise me, it pleased me, was the take up of these activities, whether they be webinars, and we arranged 2 webinars, a webinar every week for starting off, became two webinars a month. Regular communication between my regional people and our 250 firms around the world. And the buy-in and engagement in these webinars, collaboration meetings, whether they were sub-regional, regional, sub-regional basis, was quite remarkable. And it just made me realize, and I think Tendai made the point earlier, that, we're dealing with people. That everyone is going through a really difficult time. There's uncertainty. And what was quite interesting is that whenever you have these meetings, and we had one this morning for our EMEA region, people like to see each other. You get people like this, see lots of other people on the screen, and they message up saying, it's great to see you, how are you doing? They join, I might like to think that they join to discover the impact of COVID-19 on some particular part of the audit profession, but they want to connect. And so for me and for Nexia, we've done everything we can to facilitate connection and collaboration.
Yeah.
And I think that's key, to let people help out, because you have to be relevant. Because if firms, at any time, firms will go through this process, is this the right group for me? Should I be going somewhere else? What do I get for my fees? At any time, you need to be relevant, but especially at times like this.
Yeah, really good points. And Tendai, what have you been doing to make your members say, I am so glad that I am part of Impact Global at this crazy time?
I think a lot of what Kevin and Brian have already said, to be honest. We collaborate a lot with our members anyway. Within the first few weeks, obviously, I think everyone was still in shock. What do we do? And I think coming down to that people level. It was just we went on maybe a soul searching expedition of, we wanted to hear what the members wanted before we bombarded them with stuff they might not need.
Yeah, good point.
In the first couple of weeks of lockdown, I was getting so many WeCare emails from every single retailer I'd ever used, every airline I'd ever flown. Every day, WeCare, we're here. And I thought, well, I don't want to drown in that, in the comfort, I should say. And so we had a lot of open spaces with our members. It was more like just therapy, really. And then from that, it gave us a better idea to understand which regions were struggling with what.
Yeah.
So, for instance, if I look at it from a holistic perspective, some members wanted training because they'd never done remote. Whereas we've been remote for such a long time, we took it for granted that most people were set up for this. Some people, it was more about business development. Okay, well, now I'm in lockdown. How do I still make it rain, in what is effectively a global drought? Where are, the emerging money centers? What should I be doing right now to build my business? And it was the same even for us on the board of, should we tighten our belts or spend more in marketing during this time? Should we be spending more on recruitment right now than less? And then we took the option that, no, actually, we need to be investing more in advertising. We need to invest more in marketing. And those are the things that we were now telling our members as part of our business development support is, no, don't, it's scary, but no, let's look at it another way. This is an opportunity, maybe to do things differently. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to build our businesses in a more robust way than we realize. Online events was something that, I think like Kevin had mentioned, we always had webinars and so forth. Take-up was depressing, and yet we could never get rid of it because there was the 2 members who always complained we didn't have.
Yeah.
But the take-up was amazing. We have had members we haven't seen at even one physical conference, but yet they have been at every webinar we've had.
Yeah.
So things like that. I think the key was the collaboration, but also realizing there may be opportunities for our members in this season, and then giving them maybe the confidence that it is a lot to deal with, but we can do it together. And so it's been nice when I see members paying their bills.
That's always nice when you lead a global organization. And I just wrote down a couple of key words there as you were all giving your answers. If you've got any afterthoughts on this, please jump in. But certainly engagement has gone up. And you ask yourself then, why are people more engaged now than what they were before? And the word I wrote down to the answer to that is curiosity. They want to know what other people are doing. They want to hear what other people are going through. Then someone wants some therapy, some might want some skills, some might want some tools and techniques, but engagement has gone up because nobody knows what's going on right now. The uncertainty is all over the place, and accountants and bookkeepers as a breed, they deal with certainty, don't they? They like very exact answers. So any other thoughts on the engagement that we're talking about, this collaboration here?
I'd like to add, I think it's also more than the curiosity. I think it's also the that staying connected, that we're all isolating, we are all socially distanced, and it's a way of reconnecting, that there is more out there. But also, I think we have more space in our diaries than before because we're not on planes all the time. We're not going to, the meeting lunches and so forth. So suddenly we can now arrange meetings within a week or even in a day or 2 days. Whereas before you'd have to plot it like 3 months in advance because maybe someone might need a visa. Someone is flying over it, and then you need to think about the jet lag. You need to think about, now all of a sudden it's, okay, I just need to click a button and I'm there.
Yeah.
So I think we have more space to think about all of these other needs that we have, and we have the space and the time as well if we use it well. Yeah.
I was going to say, Rob, if I can, that I think Tendai made a very important point earlier on that I think the last thing members want is to be bombarded by stuff that they don't.
Yeah, more information. Yeah.
And so when we started our collaboration with members, the whole emphasis in the early stages was to find out what it was we could do to help for them. And in developing that idea, we sent out a survey. Again, we don't like sending out lots of surveys because you tend not to get too much of a response, but we sent out a survey that we crafted fairly carefully to help us find out information that we needed, as well as a free flow box. And we had a response that the likes of which we never had before. And I think that just to add one thing, that it was more than curiosity, this connection. You know, our firms are going through and have been through an experience that they have no knowledge or experience of at all. You know, accounting firm managers and leaders have not been used to this sort of disaster recovery situation. So they wanted to learn. And where there was an advantage in this crisis rolling out on a global basis, if you like, is that there was always someone who'd been through it. So they wanted to know. And so one was able to help them with what lessons have been learned, how did they keep morale of their employees up when they were going through this initial crisis, and so on, so on. So it was more than the curiosity. I think the curiosity was part of it, but I think so many of our firms used the information that they gleaned and learned to help them chart their way through these waters.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And Brian, you've been doing this for a long time. We have some precedent in the 08-09 global recession and the economic crisis, but this is nothing like that, is it? This?
No, this is totally different. It's really, especially for a lot of our younger members, right? They've never been through this. There's been no greater time, I think, from accountants to move from accountants to be a trusted advisor. We've had some of our members, I've called up, I picked up my cell phone and call my clients or call other firm members and say, hey, I'm sorry to bother you on a Saturday. And they say, oh my God, you're not bothering me. I can't sleep at night. It's a panic, right? Do I lay off people? What do I do? So it's really a great time for people to maybe change their behaviors, to give themselves a promotion, if you will, right? Because you're really moving. Use the term a lot. We all use the term a lot. Trusted advisor. I mean, this is really where it's at. I mean, our clients are calling us. I think that also it's a time leading into this where it's time for some of these people to push creative boundaries a little bit. I mean, how many times have you heard people say that if I only had more time, if I only had more time, I would think of doing this. And I think that what I'm trying to do as a leader is trying to use this time to, and it goes along with the curiosity point, is encourage others to think creatively. What have you learned from this? What would you be doing different? I think it's really really important to give feedback to people as they challenge them a little bit from walking the dog 3 times a day or watching Netflix, or it's a great time to to use your mind to think of these. I think that one of the challenges is I'm trying to kind of tell my leadership here is remove the fear of feedback. Sometimes people are afraid of giving feedback, and I think this is a great opportunity where everybody has been through this, and all ideas are great ideas. So,
love that. And Amy, just to finish this up, well, let's start the next question now. But Brian was hinting at trusted advisor there, and bookkeepers themselves are becoming that trusted advisor. There's a lot of anxiety around for accountants and bookkeepers, but let's think about the businesses that they serve. They have lots of questions, and they're leaning into people like you for answers, and you've kind of got to know everything. So just pivoting on that point right now, in these tough times, what gives you hope, and where do you see as the recovery and the growth coming from over the next few years for your members?
Oh, it's a big question. Yeah, our members, I suppose it's the nature of bookkeeping. They're dealing with the day-to-day. They're right in there. And they've got the logins to the bank accounts, whether that's right or wrong. They know the business owners, they know their hopes and dreams. It's not just about being able to translate the figures into something meaningful and to demystify the accounting speak for clients. I think they genuinely are, our members are genuinely motivated by the desire to help businesses. So that's exactly why we managed to get hundreds of people watching ICB TV every day. They had FOMO. They were worried they were going to miss out on some big big development. They were going to process something wrong. You know, they are the people that are helping these businesses apply for the grants, get the loans, do the furlough. And certainly as we move to flexible furloughing, and obviously, unfortunately, redundancies, no doubt, businesses are going to need their experts, their trusted advisors more and more. So certainly, I would very much hope that our bookkeepers are going to be there for their businesses, for their employers, just as they have been up until now. And with, you know, being able to use things like online accounting systems, Xero, QuickBooks Online, it enables them to provide this great service remotely, but also to just be super communicative, I suppose, and give business owners the kind of figures that they need now.
Yeah.
Help them with their cash flow, understand where they're going, and just be able to do these things that are actually quite complicated. My husband actually just applied for a grant, and he couldn't have done it without his trusted advisors helping him do it. You know, simple questions that to a book, you know, bread and butter to a bookkeeper or an accountant. You know, what is my pay run like? And small businesses don't have the time normally to do things like this, to deal with their accounts. So I think that need is going to be greater than ever. And a lot of our members actually, while some of them obviously have got some clients leaving, you know, they are picking up clients very quickly. And I think a lot of that is to do with their readiness to help, their willingness to be there on the end of the phone, and just try to make sense of it all for small business owners.
And Tendai, as Amy was alluding to, in these uncertain times, whatever the problems, challenges, plans, opportunities businesses have, the accountant, the bookkeeper is the answer, isn't it? And that must give you hope for growth and recovery and the kind of business development, the rain that you talked about earlier.
Yeah. I agree with everything she said. I think we like especially accounting firms, I would call, they're like, I don't know, how many responders are there? Are they like the fourth or the fifth responders? Because every announcement that's coming out from governments and so forth, normally it's the accounting firms or the bookkeepers who actually have to then become experts overnight to guide their clients through.
And it's complex, isn't it? As Amy was saying, nobody has a playbook for this stuff.
But what I've been really happy to see is the speed of the response. We have, you know, like what Brian was saying about becoming a trusted advisor, and more than ever now, navigating through how laws in different countries are changing all the time, how whatever the loans, the furloughs, all of these things, these applications, how to restructure businesses, and our firms are having to read up and pretty much the very next hour or the next day be able to provide a response and be able to provide support for their clients. And I think it's been amazing to just see how quickly, the first month, I think everyone was sort of dazed. And then after that, everyone is on it. And a lot of our members are now saying they're busier than ever. Yeah. You know, and which is, again, encouraging for us to just know that, okay, even with a global recession, I think our industry will remain very busy. I mean, obviously the sidebar will be hopefully everyone, you know, gets their bills paid. But it's good to just see that everyone is still turning to their accountants. They're not, you know, they're a priority for most businesses. And we found that we're also engaging more with our members' clients as opposed to just the member firms themselves. And that's been a new development for us, which gives us hope that the clients of our members will also appreciate the positive impact that an association like INPACT can have on their businesses. Yeah, that's been a nice addition to our journey so far.
Thank you, Kevin. What are your thoughts on where the growth opportunities will come from and the recovery for your members?
Well, look, it's not so much our firms per se that is the issue. It's the clients of our firms that give us cause for concern. And look, the reality is that on a global basis, and many firms will have significant challenges. And already you see that in terms of firms laying off people, and in some parts of the world, whether or not the countries are not able to support them, and whether they will ever be employed or what scale or what time frame that would be is we're not sure. So there's no doubt that on a global level, accounting firms will take a hit. And the scale of that will be dictated by any number of things. It'll be dictated by the size of the firms, the location of the firms, the abilities and capabilities of the partners running the firms. Are they able to make the most of the opportunities that will arise? And there will be opportunities, and already we're seeing them in certain service lines. But one of the advantages of getting slightly older is that you realize that things don't last forever. That this will pass, and at some stage in the future, we will get back to a degree of normality, what shape that will be. But it will pass. And the other thing is that, of course, one has to keep a sense of perspective about these things. There are many things that could make it far worse than it is. So I'm in no doubt that accounting firms will make a recovery. What I'm less certain about is the time frame for this recovery, and just how negatively impacted firms around the world will be before they start climbing up. And I think it's an obvious thing to say, but all our firms can do is to try and maintain their relationships with their clients. I think all our firms are doing that. They reach out for their clients. And many of our firms are saying that the issue is not today, because in most parts of the world, firms have been in receipt of they're getting the money in as things stand.
Yeah.
The question they have is, will they get the money in the second quarter of next year or later on next year? That is the challenge. And none of us know the answers to that.
Well,
and it will vary from country to country. That is also for sure.
Well, hold your powder dry, because I'm going to ask you all for a forecast of the future and what encouraging words you can give to people watching and listening. But Brian, let's just come to you on that. I was just reminded of a part of the Bible where it says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Or the longest day has an end, kind of thing. And as Kevin was hinting, this too shall pass. But we are now needing growth. We're needing recovery. So where do you see the opportunities coming from?
Yeah, so I kind of go back to, I don't know, you hear a lot of this recovery U-shaped or V-shaped or W. Yeah. Who knows, right? I mean, I think that going back to what Kevin talked on, there are things you can control and things you can't control. As a leader, I tell people, worry about those things you can control, right? And this is a temporary situation. I think that undoubtedly, an overwhelming amount of businesses really had inefficiencies and production losses, including accounting firms, in the last 6 months. A lot of it is a result of things that we can't control. So I think that, and there are many issues. I think that, the tax deadlines being extended, decreased productivity. Well, those hours are still there. I think that, there's inefficiencies in the remote transition for some people. I think that just as a general statement, I think there are very, very few businesses in the world that didn't take a hit on productivity. Yeah. So I think it's really important to recognize that that's a temporary situation, right? It's going to come back, and what you can control is your compassion, and I think keeping your people, keeping your culture, keeping confidence with your clients and your staff, and I think that those are really the long-term plays. I think about that a lot. I look at businesses are looking at short-term results, and it's a tough balance. And it took me a couple conversations to convince people of this concept. Think of balancing your productivity with your compassion. Yeah. Right. It sounds like it could be easy. It's an art. And yeah. I think those firms that really find that balance, that work through those solutions to get there, are going to be the winners.
Sure. Well, we're coming into land now. I'm going to ask you to get your crystal balls out. Kevin, I'll turn to you first. But we know that a global recession is looming. We know that tax bills that have been deferred will become due. We know that loans that have been taken out will become due. The outlook in some ways is gloomy, but we're detecting some positivity here. So what words of advice and encouragement would you give to the accountants, bookkeepers watching, and what's your forecast for what's coming up over the next year or two?
Well, Rob, if I had an accurate answer to that, I wouldn't be on your program.
You'd be doing the lottery, wouldn't you?
I'd be a devil. Look, it's just impossible to say. I mean, you know, if you're an optimist, and I tend to be optimistic about these things,
yeah,
and we will learn to adapt, or we will learn to live with this virus, or hopefully there will be some sort of vaccine. And I'm pretty certain that there will be a pretty quick recovery, because, again, without going into too much detail about what I've done in the past, I've been in locations where the infrastructure has been destroyed, and you've got absolutely nothing on which you can work. We're not in that situation, and I think the better firms, dare I say it, or those firms that can afford to do so, have resisted the temptation to take the opportunity to chop staff. They've maintained that they've kept a hold of them. You've had government support in much of the developed world. So the shape, the structure is there, and that exists in our larger clients as well. So I think that you know, I just go back to what I said earlier, that this will pass, and you know, there'll be some time in the future, hopefully not too long, we look back on this as just a horrible experience. But we will come out of this, and things will pass.
Yeah, very good. Tendai, you seem a very positive person. What advice would you give to the people listening and watching that want to make sense of what's coming up over the next year or two?
I think those who will survive are those who are proactive.
Right.
I feel that there is a season of sorting almost that's going to happen inevitably. And the businesses who are there and take the initiative as opposed to being reactionary, they may be able to come through this largely unscathed. I think I keep in my head, I had the word value, and I think I'm going forward that maybe is being able to provide value for your clients more than just the bread and butter stuff.
Yeah,
it's an opportunity, and I think the brave ones will go out and they're looking at this as a new adventure, and that there's going to be a brave new world out there. That the proactive firms, I think, will be okay. I think in all of it, like Kevin says, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
This is the season we're all going through, and there's something nice about the fact that the whole world is going through it at the same time. So we're all going to come out of it, hopefully more or less at the same time, as opposed to maybe sometimes you've got a conflict in one area of the world, and we just, it's like fiction. We're just looking, but this has touched all of us, and therefore we're all in it together. And I think that's the role that we play as associations and networks is, bringing the people together. They're not alone, and we need to make sure they understand that.
Very good. Brian, a fresh start, a brave new world, a new normal. How encouraged are you by what's coming up over the next couple of years, and what advice would you give to people watching?
Yeah, I'm very very positive about the recovery. I think that it's happening quickly. I mean, in my neighborhood, we're in Metro Detroit. I mean, we've got restaurants opening up. There's still the masks and in public places and so forth, but it's slowly opening up. I think that we're human. Humans are social creatures, right? And I just think that it's really encouraging to keep up the good news and keep up the good thoughts.
We're also very resilient, aren't we? We do tend to cope
right.
with things and get over it in the end.
Right. So, and don't watch the news too much. I mean, I think there's people that are just like really, accountants in particular, they're focused on the statistics, right? And you have to dig into the statistics, I think, a little bit. So I think, do what you can to control your situation. And there are certain things you can't control. And, the more people do that, the quicker we'll be out of this.
Yeah. Very good. Well, Amy, last word for you. We have some tough times coming up for sure, but there is a reason for hope. And how do you read the next few months? And what advice would you give to people watching?
Yeah, I suppose, the big challenge is we just don't know exactly what's going to happen. We don't know if there'll be a second wave of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And certainly, I suppose, the economic impact, we won't be able to know exactly how that will pan out until probably, next year. I mean, certainly people are going to have to start repaying those loans. They're going to have to start paying that deferred tax. So there is this sort of delayed impact. But yeah, I mean, certainly I think this idea that we should be using this time to reassess, to reprioritize, there's certainly been a environmental benefit from people moving about less. And I think really, we can look at it and know that there possibly, whilst I said earlier there's never been a better time to be a bookkeeper, possibly there was never a better time than now to experience this kind of lockdown. So while we've had physical distancing, we've had the digital tools to enable us to continue our work if we're lucky enough to do that, and to connect with people. Like Brian said, potentially we've connected with people more because we've been able to see them less.
Yeah.
And for me, on a personal note, I realise that I don't need to go to the office every single day and work really hard. And, when my kids are young, I should be here looking after them, picking them up from school. So I think for me on a personal level, I think also for our business, whilst we represent thousands of bookkeepers and members in 134 countries, I didn't get to show this off before, we've got 3,500 bookkeeping practices that we supervise. We're still a small business, and we've really taken this opportunity to look at how we want to work, how we can enable more flexible working for people who've got family commitments, people who aren't able to travel so much. And I just hope that we can, I guess globally, do as much as we can to protect people who haven't been as fortunate, who can't work remotely, particularly young people, I think often feel the effects of things like this better. And if we can use those digital tools, and we can use the digital mindset of young people to enable flexible working and change the way we work for good, then that can only be a positive thing.
Yeah, definitely. And you do get a sense, don't you, all of you, that if we're not going to change now, then what is it going to take? Because this is the opportunity, isn't it, for a reset, to look at how we worked. Does it work? Are we going back to work? Are we going to keep doing face-to-face conferences all over the world? Can we pivot in what we're doing? Any final thoughts from anyone, something you've been itching to say that you haven't? Or are we okay to wrap this up? I don't want to leave you wanting.
No, fine.
I think that's it from me.
Yes, indeed. Well, it's been terrific. Thank you so much, everyone, for your thoughts today. There's so much we didn't get a chance to touch on. We haven't talked about the mental impact of this on accountants and bookkeepers and everyone else, but we are resilient creatures. We've got that. We appreciate your contributions today. Thanks so much for taking some time out. Hopefully this will be inspiring to the people watching, and do share it with your own networks, because it's great for you to network with one another and find out what other associations and networks and alliances are doing. So I'm going to stop the record button now. Thank you very much.